It's been about a year now that I listened to the audiobook Changing World Order by Ray Dalio. And I had to listen to it twice because that information was so valuable. And it helped me understand why everything that's going on now is happening. America's on the decline. And in order to help you understand, I want you to listen to this short clip by Ray Dalio, where he explains the rise and fall of each world power that has come into existence. So check this out.
I studied the 10 most powerful empires over the last 500 years and the last 3 reserve currencies. It took me through the rise and decline of the Dutch Empire and the guilder, the British Empire and the pound, the rise and early decline in the United States Empire and the dollar, and the decline and rise of the Chinese Empire and its currencies, as well as the rise and decline of the Spanish, German, French, Indian, Japanese, Russian, and Ottoman empires, along with their significant conflicts, as measured in this chart. To understand China's patterns better, I also studied the rise and fall of Chinese dynasties and their monies back to the year 600. Because looking at all these measures at once can be confusing, I'll focus on the 4 most important ones: the Dutch, British, US, and Chinese. You'll quickly notice the pattern. Now let's simplify the form a bit. As you can see, they transpired in overlapping cycles that lasted about 250 years, with 10 to 20-year transition periods between them. Typically, these transitions have been periods of great conflict because leading powers don't decline without a fight. So how am I measuring an empire's power? In this study, I used 8 metrics. Each country's measure of total power is derived by averaging them together. They are education, inventiveness and technology development, competitiveness in global markets, economic output, share of world trade, military strength, the power of their financial center for capital markets, and the strength of their currency as a reserve currency. Because these powers are measurable, we can see how strong each country is now, was in the past, and whether they're rising or declining. By examining the sequences from many countries, we can see how a typical cycle transpires. And because the wiggles can be confusing, we can simplify it a bit to focus on the pattern of cause-effect relationships that drive the rise and decline of a typical empire. As you can see, better education typically leads to increased innovation and technology development, and with a lag, the establishment of the currency as a reserve currency. You can also see that these forces then declined in a similar order, reinforcing each other's decline. Let's now look at the typical sequence of events going on inside a country that produces these rises and declines. In a nutshell, the big cycle typically begins after a major conflict, often a war, establishes the new leading power and the new world order. Because no one wants to challenge this power, a period of peace and prosperity typically follows. As people get used to this peace and prosperity, they increasingly bet on it continuing. They borrow money to do that, which eventually leads to a financial bubble. The empire's share of trade grows, and when most transactions are conducted in its currency, it becomes a reserve currency, which leads to even more borrowing. At the same time, this increased prosperity distributes wealth unevenly, so the wealth gap typically grows between the rich haves and the poor have-nots. Eventually, the financial bubble bursts, which leads to the printing of money and increased internal conflict between the rich and the poor, which leads to some form of revolution to redistribute wealth. This can happen peacefully or as a civil war. While the empire struggles with this internal conflict, its power diminishes relative to external rival powers on the rise. When a new rising power gets strong enough to compete with the dominant power that is having domestic breakdowns, external conflicts, most typically wars, take place. Out of these internal and external wars come new winners and losers. Then the winners get together to create the new world order, and the cycle begins again.
It's been about a week now since I got back from the States, and the entire energy is different. People are scared, and there's a whole lot of uncertainty. Because of all of the changes that Donald Trump is making, people do not know what is going to happen next. And with all of these immigrants being deported, a lot of people have been playing hide and seek week after week.
Ice! What? Yo, ice is coming! Yo, ice! Yo, ice!
Since Donald Trump has come into office, he's been making a ton of changes, and he's been shaking up the economy. And people think that he's the one that's going to crash the economy. What he's trying to do is save America, but there is no saving America at this point. What's happening now is a result of a domino effect, and desperate time calls for desperate measure. So he's pulling every string possible so that he can try to make America great again. But it may be too late to make America great. Things are definitely going to change. We don't know exactly how it's going to change, and I'm no fortune teller. So there is a possibility that all the strings Donald Trump is pulling could allow America to prosper for a few more years. But there will be a change at some point. Every empire that has come into existence or dynasty has fallen at some point. So you just have to position yourself so that when that time comes, you aren't suffering because of it. One man's loss is another man's gain, and you won't feel any pain if you're the one that gains. So pay attention to what's going on and position yourself so that you can prosper. But anyways, it's about that time. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so that you're notified every time I make a new post. Until next time.